In this video, we are going to discuss about the Docker volumes. What are the different type of volumes and when we use Docker volumes and how to create the volumes. Those details we want to discuss in this video. So by nature, Docker volumes, Docker containers are ephemerals. What does that mean is they are short-lived and when the containers are deleted, everything that is inside the container gets wiped out. So that means whatever the data that we persist when that container is created, when the container is running, will get lost. So there are different kind of data. Certain data created by the applications like maps or list or other objects that created by the applications that are very short lived. And there are certain other data, for example, the application has generated logs. These are the data that we want to persist. We want to retain that data. Let's say while in the application process, we created certain files. We want to retain that files. For example, uh, MySQL containers. It generates the data and it stores the data into the database. Now, after the containers gets deleted, we don't want to delete that data. We do want to retain that data for the later use. So that is what we want. But by nature, as said, Docker containers are ephemerals. They are short lives, and whatever is returned in that containers, it will get lost when the applications are when the containers are removed from Docker. So if you look at it with this image, what happens is we have a host machine and in that we are running the Docker containers. So Docker containers can have a data resides in that memory and that data is temporarily living in the containers. As long as the containers are alive, the data will be available and they are called the temp fs mount. They are also called the anonymous volumes. So any data that is there, it is tied with that containers and if the containers are removed, that data will get lost. There is another type of volumes. They are called a Docker managed volumes. They are kind of a volumes that is managed by the volume that is managed by the Docker, and these are separate from the container so that it can be attached and detached from the containers. And there is another type of volume that is a file system volume. So it is actually on the host machine that uh, we store data somewhere on the host machine and use that data. So there are three different type as we are saying. First one is anonymous volume, that is tempfs volume. So these type of volumes gets created specifically for the single containers. It survives container shutdowns and restarts. What it means is when we start the containers, when we stop the containers, the container gets stopped, but still the container data is live, is available inside the containers. But when we remove the container from the Docker, in that case, the data will also get lost. So that is the drawback of that particular anonymous type of volumes, and that is the reason that we cannot share the data across the containers. It cannot be also reused. Okay, so that is first type of the volumes. The another type of the volumes is called the Docker managed volumes. So that is Docker area. It is residing inside the Docker area. Also, it is called the named volumes. So these volumes created inside the Docker as a contained objects like Docker image, container or network. Volumes are attached with the container and can survive the container shutdown and restart because this is separate. These volumes are separately attached with the containers. It is not a part of the container. That is why if we stop the container or delete the container from the Docker, still the data inside the volumes will be available for use. And it can be shared across the container. So, for example, if you have created a volume and if you are attaching that volume with the two containers, then it is possible. You can store the data from by both the volumes and we can use that data. It is important to note here it is important to note that if we delete that container, if we delete that volume from the Docker, then the data will get lost. So it is important that we make sure that con- volumes are not deleted. We can remove the container, we can delete the container, but not the volumes. Otherwise, the data is residing inside the container, inside the volume will be lost. And managed volumes are comparatively faster than the other type of volumes. Other type of means uh, file system volumes. The always this memory volumes will be faster because it is residing inside the container. But as because of the usability that temp volumes are or anonymous volumes are not very useful. So there are different ways we can create the Docker volumes, manage volumes by Docker contain, Docker volume, create volumes. We can list down those all the volumes with a Docker volume ls. We can delete the volumes with a Docker rm command, and also we also can inspect and go inside the volume and we can get some more detail about when the volume got created, what type the volume is, all those things. So the third type of volume is a bind mount. The bind mount is actually residing inside the file system. Like if this is my host machine, in that host machine, I have got a file system. In that file system, my bind mount resides. So it is not tied to any specific container, and unlike Docker manage volume, its life cycle is not being managed by the Docker. So these containers, this it can be shared. These kind of bind mounts can be shared across containers. It can be reused for the same container across multiple restarts. Also, it can be attached with the multiple containers as well. So this is all about Docker volumes. In the next video, we will be seeing this with the practical examples, all like what kind of anonymous volumes and uh, Docker manage volumes and bind mount volumes. Thank you for watching the video.